So summer of 2014, those are 3 months that for as long as I live, I will never forget. I was a campus pastor of the newest campus of a multi-state, multi-site mega church, and the lead pastor had just recently resigned, and the acting lead pastor came in and sat all of us down and said, we really believe that the best thing that could happen for our church to be able to accomplish God's mission in the world would be to release every campus and send every campus out as a fully autonomous individual church plant. And so basically we were left with one of two decisions, and that was to shut our campus down or to plant a church. And I knew that God had always called us to plant a church. I knew that God had always wanted us to do something for His kingdom in the world, to expand His kingdom, not just to carry on what had been planted before, but to start something new. But I didn't know if I was ready. And so I remember going home and talking to my wife and saying, maybe now's the time. And we've got the opportunity to plant a church in Harrisburg, North Carolina. And we really prayed for a solid 2 or 3 weeks, just asking the question, is this a good idea or is it God's idea? Is it something that would be nice to do, or is it something that we need to do? And we really felt impressed by God that He wanted us to do something different in Harrisburg. So we started thinking about, what are we going to call this new church that God's calling us to? And we had this vision in our heart for who it is that God wanted us to be, but we had not figured out how to articulate that into words yet. And God kept bringing this one word back to me over and over and over again, and it's the word hope. Because here's what hope means. Hope means that when you're in the middle of a dark place, when you're in the middle of a difficult time, when you're in the middle of a broken set of circumstances or situations, that you're not necessarily removed from those things, but you're believing that there's a purpose in them and that one day everything will be made right. You're given hope in the middle of brokenness. And I was raised in a church situation where everybody just either did one of two things. They accepted the brokenness around them and lived in that reality, or they masked the brokenness and acted like they had it all together. And I didn't want that. I didn't want either one of those things. I wanted to come to a place where we realized how broken we were and how broken our circumstances were, but that we could have hope in the middle of those circumstances. And so hope was a word that really resonated with me. And then I wanted that hope to be something that our people so resonated with and so carried in their hearts and their lives that it affected where they worked and where they played and where they socialized. I didn't want it to just impact their home community or their neighborhood. I wanted it to impact their city. And we wanted to be a church for our city, a church that would reshape the spiritual landscape of our city. And so with that, we decided that the best name, the most fitting name for this church would be Hope City Church. We really started praying about, God, what is it that you're calling us to, and who is it that you're calling us to be? And since our name was Hope City Church, we wanted to bring hope to the people that we came in contact with. But who were those people? Who was it that God was calling us to reach? And as we began to look in the mirror and look at ourselves and realize what God had done in our own hearts and in our own lives, we became extremely clear who it is that God was calling us to. And that was like-minded people, people who were also broken, people who were messed up, people who had shattered pasts and shattered stories and broken dreams. We wanted to resonate with people like that and help them experience the hope that can only be found in a personal relationship with God by accepting what Jesus has done on the cross on their behalf. And so we made it our mission as a church to equip our people to be able to take the gospel, the good news of Jesus, the good news that you can have a relationship with God, to their friends, to their family, to their neighbors, to their coworkers. We made it our mission as a church to bring the hope of Jesus to the broken.
When Robbie set me down and he started to share the vision of what this new church would look like, I listened. And as I was listening, he then asked me to come and be a part of this. And Donna and I talked about it. We prayed about it. And so we looked at this as an opportunity where God was working. And as we stepped in faith each and every way, God provided. I've seen time and time again people's lives being changed. because of Jesus. I've seen my life change. I've had the privilege to walk hand in hand with guys at the fireside. The reality is, if it wasn't been for those guys, I really don't know how I would have made it. They will never know how much they've meant to me, how much they've helped me, how much they have encouraged me along the way. Some of us by words, some of us by prayers, but if it wouldn't have been for this group of guys, it would have been so hard. I don't know. I don't know what I'd have done. And I've seen God work time and time again. We fast forward to where we are today, and the mantra is, we see people's lives change. I've had the great privilege of being on staff at multiple churches where we've grown. We've reached people for Christ. We've discipled people. We've seen people's lives change. There is a spirit here of camaraderie-ship, a spirit of togetherness. You guys, all of you have embraced me and loved me and encouraged me and helped me and helped Donna and helped us through this process. I'm celebrating today. I'm celebrating what God has done, what God has brought me through, how God has encouraged me, and I'm rejoicing in that. I was just reading the other day, and in Jeremiah 17:7, Irvin's paraphrases pretty much says this, that blessed is the man who trusts in the Lord, whose confidence is in Him. And I'd like to stand up and say that for the past 14 or 16 months, that's been me. I've been that guy that's trusted the Lord. But if you're in my fireside group, you know hands down that I've struggled. But God has been faithful. And God's doing a great work in our church. And I'm excited to be a part of it. I'm excited to celebrate 1 year and all that God's done, and privileged to be a part of it, and excited about where we're going to go in the future.
As the worship pastor of Hope City Church, the desire for Sunday mornings is very easy for me. I want your Sunday morning to reflect the rest of your week. I want Sunday to be the overflow of what happens throughout the week. So when we start talking about what do you experience on Sunday, my desire is that you're experiencing the presence of the Lord in real and tangible ways in your life throughout the week. And when we come together from the overflow of what you've experienced, we celebrate and we worship Him together. If you do not have the experience of the Lord in your week, my hope for you on Sunday is that you would catch a glimpse of what it's like to be in true relationship with the Lord, and that you'll experience His presence through the inhabitants of His praise, of His people, and you will see God clearly, and that your life will change, and that you will accept Him as your Lord and your Savior.
So when we started talking about how people could experience this hope, like what it is tangibly that we're going to help people to experience so that they would have the hope of Jesus, we started asking the question, what kind of relationships do we need to facilitate for people? What is it that drives us? What is it that's important to us? What is it that keeps us up at night that we want people to experience and to have personally? And we basically boiled it all down to 3 primary relationships. We want people to have an absolutely intimate relationship with God. We're convinced that we were created to be in relationship with God, that we're not meant to carry our burdens alone, that we're meant to walk hand in hand with a God who's so much bigger than we are, and we're meant to have intimacy with Him. And so we hope that our environments help people experience and deepen and grow their own intimacy with God. Beyond that, we know that not only were we created for vertical relationships, we were created for horizontal relationships, but not just passing friendships or friendships on Facebook or social media. We were created for authentic relationships. And so we want to create environments that help people develop authentic community with the people of the local church. And then finally, we know we were all created for a purpose, and nobody wants to live their life and not feel like they were significant. So we want to create environments that help people experience legitimate influence in the world around them. And we're convinced that when people are experiencing intimacy with God, authentic community with His church, and legitimate influence in the world around them, they begin to live with hope. Hope in the middle of pain, in the middle of difficult circumstances. Hope in the middle of brokenness. And over the course of the last year, we've heard story after story after story and seen face after face of people walk through our doors who are experiencing the hope of Jesus, some for the first time in their life and some for the first time in a very long time. We're watching people have their marriages restored. We're watching families come back together. We're watching people experience hope in ways that they never have before. And it's because people are experiencing the life-changing, the transformative power of Jesus in their life. And for the first time in the middle of their brokenness, they're experiencing hope. And so we as a church feel like that we're accomplishing exactly what it is that God set out for us to accomplish. We're so excited about the work that God's doing through this movement that we call Hope City Church. And we hope that you will be a part of it.